Hey guys, are you ready for an action-packed night of MMA? Get ready for UFC 284 as they take the octagon by storm. With a stacked card with some of the biggest names in the sport, and Islam Makhachev defending his lightweight title against featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski. This card is stacked from top to bottom with plenty of rising stars looking to make a name for themselves. Who will rise to the occasion in Australia? Let's find out with these fight predictions. All right, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. UFC 284 Makhachev versus Volkanovski. Pretty excited for this card. It's going to be it's a stacked card. It's looking really good from top to bottom. So let's get into it right away. First fight, we have a heavyweight fight, Junior Tafa versus Waldo Cortes Acosta. So Junior Tafa, he did kickboxing. I think he's had a boxing fight or so. Waldo Cortes Acosta, he was a boxer at first, and then he also did MMA fights as well. So Junior Tafa, he was one of the few people I couldn't actually find his fights, like actual footage, except for his kickboxing matches. So, but those are also a few years old as well, like some of the ones in Glory. But he fought this guy here in Ryzen. This was probably, I guess it would be his toughest fight. Let's see here. So yeah, he won that by KO in the first round. Waldo Cortes Acosta, I think he's won 2 fights in the UFC and 1 in Contender Series, I believe. Yeah, so he won Contender Series first round. I seen that fight. He had pretty nice boxing, to be honest. Like for a heavyweight, snaps his punches really well. So these are like 2 strikers, definitely. I feel like, and this guy had a lot of boxing fights before, which is really good experience. The other guy had a lot of kickboxing fights, so it's kind of like a boxing style versus a kickboxer in this fight. And I apologize about all these ads. So he's 9-0. Salsa Boy is his nickname. I like that nickname. He's 9-0. So I watched both. Well, I didn't watch any of Junior Tafa's fights, but Cortes looked good. Beat 2 guys in the UFC so far. Not the greatest guys in the UFC, but still guys that have some experience. And then he finished his guy in Contender Series, who had a pretty good record. So I'm gonna actually go with Waldo Cortes Acosta for this one, just based on the fact I don't know too much about him. But he has fought some good guys in Glory, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a killer as well. Okay, next fight, Zubaira Tukhugov versus Elves Brenner. Okay, so we all know Zubaira is one of Khabib's partners. Elves Brenner, this guy's new. I couldn't really find much on him either. Looking at his record, he hasn't really fought the greatest guys so far in his career. Here wasn't too bad, but like nobody that I really know of. I'm assuming this is mostly in Brazil. The people that he did lose to, Gabriel Santos, Sergey Andreev. So for this one, I'm gonna have to go with Zubaira. He's just fought a lot in the UFC. He's fought some good competition. Okay. So next fight is Jamie Mullarkey versus Francisco Prado. So I found some fights on this guy. They're all in Venezuela, I believe. I believe that's where he's from. Or Argentina, sorry. So he looked pretty good, but also the guys that he was fighting, they're all probably from Argentina as well. So they're just not well known. Not saying they're not good. But he does go out and go for the kill. That's one thing I've seen. He looked pretty good in his fights that he fought in. With that being said, Jamie Mullarkey has already had some fights in the UFC. He's a little more experienced. Like Like he's just kind of fought tougher competition, guys that are well known. Fought in the UFC, had a war with Brad Riddell. And with that being said, he also is from Australia. This card is in Australia, so I feel like he's going to be fired up. He has a lot of heart. I don't feel like this guy has really been tested yet, where Jamie Mullarkey has been tested. So for this one, I'm going to pick Jamie Mullarkey. Okay. So we got Cortes, Zubaira, and Mullarkey so far. Okay, so this one here, watched his fight on Contender Series, Blake Bilder versus Shane Young. So I watched his fight on Contender Series. He's had a few fights, and he's actually had quite a few fights in the UFC. Shane Young, he lost the decision, I think, back in 2017 or 18 to Volkanovski, which is that's a good fight to have. So that was his first fight in the UFC. That's a tough go. Beat two guys, then lost to two guys. He looked pretty good in this fight against Morales too. Like this wasn't a dominating fight by any means, that loss. So it's gonna be in Australia where he's from as well. So the guy is fighting. This is gonna be his debut in the UFC. Won his Contender Series fight against the guy Alex Morgan. He's actually from Canada as well. He trains with TriStar, so he's actually a really good striker. But he got caught with a nice cross and then got choked out. This guy jumped on his back really quick, choked him out. So he looked pretty good in that fight, but he was getting his calf kicked quite a bit. Like he had very good movement. This guy, Blake Bilder, good lateral movement. He just kind of was bouncing all around the place, kind of hard to hit. Shane Young, from what I've seen with him, he comes forward a lot, but he's a good striker. So I feel like Blake Bilder is probably more of a grappler from what I've seen, at least. I didn't see a lot on him. And this guy is more of a striker. So I see, and this guy's fought some tough competition. That being said, he hasn't fought since 2001. So almost 2 years now, where Blake Bilder, I believe, has had quite a few fights recently. Like he just had his Contender Series fight in August, and then he fought. Yeah, so he's fought 4 times in the amount of time that Shane Young has been off. That being said, these guys are definitely not the same caliber fighters as what like this has probably been his toughest fight, was this Alex Morgan guy. So I would say I'm gonna lean towards Shane Young for this fight, just with the experience and everything. I think this guy will take his first loss. Maybe not, but if I had to pick somebody, it would definitely be let's see, yeah, Shane Young for sure. Okay, so next fight is Loma Lookboonme versus Elise Reed. Okay, so I really like this girl. She's a good Thai style striker. Very small, but she's really good. Really technical. 5'1", so she's tiny, but I mean she's really technical and good. Really fun to watch if you like if you're into high level technique. Really good. She's had quite a few fights in the UFC so far. She only lost to Angela Hill and Lapita Godinez, both pretty good. Has beaten this girl here, these two, and Denise Gomes, who's 6-1, pretty good record. Elise Reed, she's pretty good as well. Yeah, so she's been in UFC for 4 fights. She's 2-2. She beat Corey McKenna by split decision. That's a good win. She's hard to beat. So then she beat this undefeated girl, Melissa Martinez, by decision. She lost both of her fights that she did lose. She lost by ground and pound. So, but I do not see this girl taking her down. This girl's going to strike with her for sure. I see this being a striking fight, to be honest. If anything, I would think Elise Reed would be the one trying to take her down. So but I think she's going to be a little bit too technical for Elise Reed, and I see her probably winning a decision, to be honest. So I'm going to pick Loma Lookboonme. Okay. And then now in the 125-pound division, we have Kleydson Rodriguez versus Shannon Ross. So Kleydson Rodriguez versus Shannon Ross. This one is an interesting fight. So this guy here fought on Contender Series. He lost his fight. He got knocked out in the second round, but it was an insane fight. If you guys have Fight Pass, I would recommend watching that if you haven't seen this guy fight. So it's funny because he's actually getting signed off of a loss. Now, with that being said, his loss to this guy, it was an amazing fight. Like he got dropped like 3 or 4 times. He had crazy heart in the fight. He came back. He was tagging this guy up. Like it was just an amazing fight. I can't even explain it. You guys have to go watch it if you haven't seen it. Gained a lot of respect for this guy. He has a ton of heart. He was actually touching this guy up too. Like he was getting lit up from this guy, but he was in it. Like he was touching this guy as well. So he looked pretty good overall. Yeah, just this guy had his number. That's all it was. Like, but that being said, this guy here just lost a split decision, I believe. Yeah, to CJ Vergara, who is a beast. One thing about this guy is he has really good, like a good Muay Thai style, really hard kicks, really good with his teep, I noticed. So like he stays kind of on the outside. So he kind of like waits for them to come to him and he just like teeps them. So like if they're really good punchers, he'll teep them in the belly to keep them away. And then he'll use really good kicks. And then when they do get close, that is when he'll punch or try to like set them up into a knee, which I really don't see him landing knees often, but his kicks are really good, really hard kicks. And he does have good punches too, but he's good Muay Thai style striker who kind of like baits the person into them from what I've seen. Now this guy here, I found he was like when he was fighting this guy, he was going forward on this, or at first he was going backwards, like almost the whole first round. And he was getting lit up. He was like on very like defensively because he was getting smashed. But then the second round, he was like when he would light him up, he would come forward. So this guy was actually good when he did tag him. His opponent, who was a lot taller than him, by the way, like he was giving up a lot of reach. He was able to go forward and come back, fight really good in both. With that being said, like this was a hard one for me to pick because I seen how tough this guy is and how much heart he had. And he did have a good gas tank. He was just getting beat up. So I feel like if he was able to pressure the guy, and actually try to tire out Kleydson Rodriguez, he might be able to get it done. But that being said, I see this guy probably hurting him. It's a tough one to pick, but I'm just gonna lean towards this guy just because I seen his striking was super clean. Now the other guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it done either. But for this one, I'm gonna pick Kleydson Rodriguez. That was a tough one for me to pick because I watched the guy fight on Contender Series and he's a dog for sure. So now we have Joshua Culibao versus Melsik Bagdahsaryan, yeah. So this one here, another tough one to pick. Josh Culibao will definitely, I think, have the speed advantage. Melsik will have the power advantage. Both pretty good strikers. Culibao is really quick. He's very good at like painting people, getting them to attempt striking, just moving at a range and coming back and countering right away. He's really good at that. Where Melsik is really good at pressuring, cutting people off. So being a pressure fighter, cutting people off, and just literally like trying to just hurt them and knock them out. Culibao looked really good in his last fight. And Melsik, think he's been off for a little bit longer. He looked good too, but he had a tough matchup. The guy was like a good karate guy, but he was still able to beat him. Yeah, Bruno Souza. And as you can see, he kind of has like some knockouts, and he was a kickboxer, did boxing. So Culibao is pretty beast too. This was a tough one to pick too, but um, he looked really good in his last fight, honestly. This fight here. Won by split decision, but he did look really good. Um, just the way he moves and everything. But I'm gonna go with Melsik. I think he's gonna be like straight up in his face, gonna be a little bit too big for Culibao. And I feel like he's just yeah, he's just a beast. So I'm gonna lean towards Melsik on this one for sure. Okay. So now we are Jack Jenkins versus Don Shainis. Okay. So I only seen one fight from this guy. His one fight in the UFC. He fought uh Sadiq Yusuf. It was quick. He literally came in. Pretty much Sadiq started tagging him up with knees to the body. And then he tried taking down Sadiq. Sadiq jumped and got an arm in guillotine and choked him out in the first round. Super quick, pretty dominant, but he kind of fought people on the regional circuit. So like this guy's record's crazy: 16 wins, 104 losses. So he's like Cody Pfister was in the UFC before. He fought him. That was probably his toughest fight, but he beat him in the first round too. Chris Lencioni as well. He's a Bellator fighter, I believe, and he beat him by decision. So, with that being said, so he's fighting this guy Jack Jenkins, who fought on the Contender Series. I believe he's making his UFC debut now. Yeah, so he won this fight. He was just literally taking this guy down the whole time. You could tell this guy was more of a striker, and he just fought really smart. Just kept taking the guy down, beating him up on the ground, and got a ground and pound finish. So what I think here is, and this guy hasn't lost since 2018. He's had quite a few fights, um, and it's in Australia. So for this one here, I'm gonna lean towards Jack Jenkins for this. Okay. So if you guys are enjoying the video, subscribe, like the video. I appreciate all the support, guys. Also, don't forget to stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to give you who my fight of the night is and drop yours in the comments as well. I'd like to hear what your guys' opinion is, what fight you're most excited for, maybe. Okay. So we have Tyson Pedro versus Mingyang Zhang. So Mingyang Zhang, he just fought on, it's called Road to UFC. So they're like these little tournaments that they're having. A lot of like Asian fighters on them, to be honest. And he just fought this guy. It's weird. His record's like a lot of guys that like don't have crazy records, but then he fought this guy with a little bit of a better record. They honestly just came in and like threw down. He pressured this guy. They both kind of had their hands down. He was doing something really nice that I liked. He was faking the jab and then going with the liver shot with the lead hand, the left hook to the body, which was really nice. But he was getting caught too in this fight, but he just had this guy's number. You could tell he was just a little bit too aggressive. And when he hit him, he was hurting the guy. Like the guy was constantly on the retreat. Now he didn't like, he came out and just literally he was technical a little bit, but his hands were down. There were some holes I seen in his game for sure. He was getting touched by this guy. Where Tyson Pedro, I watched his last two fights because he was off for 4 years with like a knee injury. I watched these last two fights and he looked amazing in these fights. Now with that being said, like this guy here, he landed like 3 or 4 leg kicks on him, finished like hurt the guy so bad with the leg kicks. The guy dropped against the cage, then he like literally like threw a couple uppercuts to his face against the cage when he was down and finished him right off. Like, it was really nice. And then this guy here, Harry Hunsucker, he literally threw a nice teep to the body and then just finished him with ground. So the body kick, like, literally took all the wind out of this guy and finished him. What happened was, in both of these fights, I noticed, more importantly than that, was he was very patient. He feints all the time, fakes, making people constantly think, staying at distance. Like, he was a little bit taller than both these guys. He won't have that advantage against this guy. This Mingyang Zhang guy was really big. That's where I think, like, this guy could give Tyson Pedro maybe some issues, as he is really big and aggressive and he's young. That's where he could give him some issues, but he looked way more technically better than Mingyang Zhang. I only seen one fight from him, but from what I've seen, Tyson Pedro, if he fights smart, he should win this fight. So I'm going to pick Tyson Pedro on this one. Okay. So now we're at the main card, and this fight card is insane. So we have Randy Brown versus Jack Della Madalena. Okay, so kind of a tough one to pick in a way. Randy Brown has more experience in the UFC. Just kind of check out who he's fought here. So he beat Francisco Trinaldo. This guy's a veteran. That's a really big win. Anybody that can beat this guy, it's a really big win, in my opinion. Jared Gooden, Chaos Williams, split decision. Alex Oliveira has lost to Vicente Luque, who's a beast. And then, yeah, he's beaten a lot of good guys. Barberena, Worley Alves, lost to Bilal Muhammad. Like, he's losing to really good guys. So that was tough for me to pick because he beats a lot of good guys, but he loses to, like, the best guys. Where this guy here, he hasn't fought the best guys yet in the UFC, so it's hard to gauge. Like, he's beaten these guys that aren't on the same level of the guys that Randy Brown has beaten. With that being said, this guy has 3 first-round finishes since he's came to the UFC. He looked good in his Contender Series fight, but he wasn't. He looked good, but he didn't finish the guy, so it wasn't as impressive. With that being said, he looked really good in these fights. He is on a huge win streak. He only lost his first 2 fights, and then he hasn't lost since 2016, so 7 years. Now, with that being said, Randy Brown's really tough, but I do like this guy's striking. I don't see Randy Brown trying to take him down. I see him trying to strike. The issue I think this guy might have with Randy Brown is he's long. So he's 5'11". Randy Brown is 6'4", I believe, and that could give him issues. But the guy has really good boxing, so he might know how to deal with that. I haven't seen him fight a guy this tall yet, so I'm kind of interested for this one. With that being said, I'm gonna take a chance on this one. I have a feeling that maybe Randy Brown could win, but I'm gonna pick Jack Della Madalena. These are gonna be some good fights, guys. Okay, so we are at Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. Okay, man. I know I say this about a lot of fights, but they are really hard to pick, some of them. Jimmy Crute lost to 2 beasts recently. I know he lost to Anthony Smith and I believe maybe Jamal Hill. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So he got a leg injury versus Anthony Smith. I believe he kicked his leg where, like, the nerve shuts off behind the knee. So he got the leg injury in that one. And then, yeah, that is exactly what happened in that one. I remember that. And then Jamal Hill, he just got knocked out, but Jamal Hill's a beast. So then he won his 2 fights before that. Got choked out by Misha Serkinov before that. He was a really good grappler. And then before that, he was undefeated. So he beat Paul Craig, tapped out Paul Craig. That's impressive. So this guy is definitely has potentially super young. Definitely a beast. I kind of want to lean towards I had Alonzo Menifield picked, but I don't know. The more I think about it, I kind of want to lean towards Jimmy Crute. The only thing is he is coming off 2 losses, but they are the beasts. This guy just beat Misha Serkinov. He looked really good. If he didn't win this fight, I would definitely pick Jimmy Crute. But he looked really good in this fight. Like really scary. So it's a hard one to pick, but I'm gonna pick Jimmy Crute because it is in Australia. So, but that one is tough. Okay. Now we're getting into the almost to the co-main and main. So let's go Justin Tafa versus Parker Porter. So Justin Tafa, his last fight, he had kicked the guy in the first round. Got a knockout, and Parker, so he's more of a striker, definitely. Parker Porter is more of a wrestler, but he's like a MMA guy. He's well-rounded. Striking doesn't look amazing by any means. He's like kind of more like a brawler, but he's a grinder. I watched one of his last fights, and he just grinds. Now this guy here, I think if he wins, he'll win by like a knockout early, but he is super tough. He does fight pretty smart for a big guy, and he has a gas tank. And he is more, this guy grinds people out for 3 rounds, wrestles, kind of mixes everything up. This guy is just going to try and knock you out. So if it ends early, Justin Tafa will get it. If it goes late, Parker Porter will get it. So, but based on what I watched, I think Parker Porter might just have a little more experience. I think he might be able to kind of weather the storm as long as he fights smart. I feel like he has the advantage, so I'm going to pick Parker Porter, and he's most likely going to win by decision or gas him out late and maybe get a finish. But I see it more likely him winning by decision. Okay, so now we're getting into the really good fights here. So we have the co-main event, Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett. Okay, so this is going to be awesome. So let's just take a look more in depth with these fights. So Josh Emmett, 18-2. I believe that's his record, yeah. I know he lost to Jeremy Stevens back in the day and Des Green. Okay. So he hasn't lost since 2018. Beat Michael Johnson, Mirsad Bektik, Shane Burgos by decision, Dan Ige by decision, Calvin Cater by split decision. So a lot of decision wins. Michael Johnson overhand right. So he has won this year against Cater. Split decision. Yair Rodriguez. We have beat Brian Ortega, but that was an injury. That was kind of fluky. I don't know. That's pretty much just write that fight off. He did look good in that, but it was too quick to even like really determine what was going to happen. Max Holloway, great fight. Him versus Max. Went to decision with Max. I knew he would be kind of like a good matchup for Max. Just he's a really good striker with really good kicks. Beat Jeremy Stevens by decision 2019. So he hasn't been super active. Cheng Sung Jung, he looked amazing in that fight. This fight is most recent, and this one impressed me the most. I think he's going to be a little too long for Josh Emmett. He's pretty long for the weight class. He's really good at like using that range, his kicks and everything. And he's just really such a good striker. So is Josh Emmett, but Josh Emmett's more of like a power puncher, more probably dangerous with his hands. Yair Rodriguez is definitely more dangerous with like his kicks and stuff. So just kind of well-rounded striker, but I'm gonna pick Yair Rodriguez for that one, guys. And then we have the main event. Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev. This is insane. 25-1, 23-1. You have the featherweight champion coming up to fight the lightweight champion. Doesn't get much better than that. I know a lot of people probably hating on it because they think Makhachev's too big for Volkanovski, but you know what? It's an interesting matchup. It's going to be a great fight. So I think people should just stop hating. Islam Makhachev, just enjoy the fights, and for the haters, they just need to shut their mouths. So we got Alexander Volkanovski, or sorry, Islam Makhachev. So his last loss was to Adriano Martins in 2015. I think it was a spinning back fist. No, yeah, it might have been a spinning back fist knockout or something. It was very fluky. I know that. With that being said, I'm not taking anything away from this guy. But he fights him the majority of times he's going to beat him. So Pete Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Thiago Moises, Drew Dober, Davi Ramos. Just, I know they're not the top guys, but they're still good. Charles Oliveira, that was impressive. Like Charles Oliveira did not look like he had a chance in that fight. I was like, I wanted Oliveira to win that fight, but he didn't have a chance in that fight. Volkanovski. So I think his first loss was at like his only loss was at like 170 pounds or something. This one here. So like, let's see, like Australian FC. Let's see here. So we have okay, so 170 pounds. Yeah. So his only loss, guys, was at welterweight. He's fighting at lightweight in this one. So that's something to think about. I know it's a long time ago, but he also hasn't lost since 2013. Makhachev hasn't lost since 2015. So this guy has kind of been on a longer tear. Hasn't been as long in the UFC, with that being said. Gone to the UFC in 2016. But and he started fighting at lightweight in the UFC and then dropped to featherweight. And he's been on a tear ever since. The thing about this is he did go to decision twice with Holloway, who is a beast, but they're different style matchups. Makhachev's more of a wrestler. It's going to be such an interesting fight because Makhachev's wrestling is insane, and that usually opens up his striking because people are so worried about it. One thing I did see was Volkanovski talked in an interview on a podcast that I watch, and he was saying most people worry too much about Islam's wrestling, so they don't strike with him. Like they're too afraid to implement their own game. And he plans on not worrying about his wrestling and just going out and striking. And I think that's the best game plan, honestly. You can't be worried about what your opponent's going to do the whole time. You have to just go out and play your game. Volkanovski's striking is insanely good. His jab is so fast. He's just so good at moving in and out. He's a lot smaller. He's going to have the speed advantage. I'm telling you that right now. He's not going to have probably the strength advantage, but he also used to fight at bigger weight classes. I don't think people might realize how strong he is. He was a big guy, and he's probably like, there's some people that are small, but they're a lot stronger than people think. So and I bet you Islam Makhachev for him too. I bet you Islam Makhachev for his size. Like this guy here is 145. I bet you he's actually like has the strength of like maybe not a UFC 185er, but somebody that would weigh 185 pounds. Or same with like Makhachev. He probably has the strength of like a light heavyweight, like somebody that would weigh 200 pounds. So it's one of those things. It's like they both are probably pretty strong. That being said, I feel like he'll have the striking advantage. If he goes out and strikes, I don't know, guys. Like this is gonna be insane. Like it would be so cool if he actually upset Makhachev and could knock him out with like really nice striking. Just fight smart, even tire Makhachev out. We don't see Makhachev fighting into later rounds. He hasn't fought a championship 5-round fight yet, where we know this guy can go 5 rounds. He has heart for days. The difference between him and Oliveira, I don't feel like he's going to tap if he gets put in a choke. I feel if he does, I'd be kind of surprised, especially in Australia. I feel like when you've seen him fight Ortega, 5th round, he gets dropped, and then he almost gets tapped out. He doesn't tap. I feel like he was going to go to sleep if he had to. And he defended so many submissions in that fight. Like his submission defense is really good. So he has a lot of strengths, and I think he's kind of underestimated a little bit in this fight. But with that being said, Islam Makhachev, I feel like the wrestling, there's no doubt he's going to have the better wrestling. Makhachev will have the better wrestling. Volkanovski will have the better striking, I believe. But with that being said, Makhachev will be able to hang on the feet. Like he's not gonna. I feel like he's been developing his whole game. It's like Volkanovski. He's been developing his whole game as well. So it's a really tough one for me to pick because I want Volkanovski to win. Sometimes when you want the person to win, you're gonna pick them. But if I had to bet on it, I would bet that Makhachev is gonna win. Now, I think he'll have to constantly grind him, take him down. It's a tough one. I could see Volkanovski honestly catching him too, man. It's a tough one to pick, but I think Islam's route to victory is to take him down, gas him out, and then just either keep ground and pounding him and then them stopping it, or him just literally grappling him for 5 rounds and crushing him. But I'm not counting this guy out. I won't be surprised if he pulls off a huge upset. If the betting lines were crazy on this guy, like if he was a big underdog, I would definitely throw money on him. Because I think people are just like writing him off being a smaller guy and everything. But I think that could come to his advantage in ways in striking, in the speed. That could definitely help him. I feel like that's why he has a lot of success at featherweight, even being a shorter guy. He is super quick and fast, and he's good at moving in and out. So that's my picks for this. Islam Makhachev, I'm just going to pick him to win. I don't know how, but I think he definitely has, like, if he gets a hold of him and he can sap his energy and then kind of ground and pound him or get a submission and put him to sleep, I feel like he could do that. But it's going to be a great fight, guys. So I'm going to pick my fight of the night now. And if you haven't done so yet and you're still sticking around, subscribe, like the video if you enjoy it. I do plan on starting to do giveaways once I start monetizing my channel. So the more people that support and watch these videos, and if you like them, leave a thumbs up. I'm going to start doing giveaways for my subscribers. So I appreciate everybody watching, but I'm going to pick my fight of the night. And leave in the comments who your fight of the night is, guys. Or which fight you're most excited for, at least. So, out of all of these fights, my fight of the night, without a doubt, I mean, the one I'm most excited to see is going to be this one, for sure. Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev. But my fight of the night that I'm going to pick, I think is going to be the best fight. It's probably going to be Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett. All right, guys. So once again, drop a like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate the support. Appreciate everybody that's already subscribed, and hope you guys enjoy the fights and have a great day, guys.